session. Uh, it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Varsha Pokharkar, Madam, Dean, Vice Principal, HOD, and Professor of Department of Pharmaceutics, Bharati Vidyapeeth deemed to be University Pune College of Pharmacy, Pune. Madam pursued her post-graduation from very well-known ICT Mumbai and doctoral studies from National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. Her research area is predominant in nanoparticulate delivery system for drugs, peptides and vaccines, lipid drug delivery, controlled release drug delivery, pre-formulation studies. Her research citations are more than 4,416 and H index is 32. Madam has 100 publications, 3 book chapters, 11 patents to her credits, with over 28 years of academic and research experience. She has guided more than 84 PG students and 15 PhD students. She has research grants from UGC, AICT, RPS, DST projects, and travel grants. She has delivered more than 45 guest lectures in various conferences. Madam is a recipient of 11 international and national awards, including AICT Leelavati Award 2021, APTI CJ Shishu Award 2017, and Best Research Award from Bharati Vidyapeeth University. After this brief introduction, I welcome Madam by offering a bouquet, and I request Madam to start her talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amol, for that wonderful flowers and the very nice introduction. At the outset, very good morning to all the delegates, first of all, and also and appreciate that you all have enrolled for this very interesting STC program. Also, I would first like to congratulate Dr. Bibida Dapte for taking up such a very interesting theme for this STC, and that is to deal with the healthcare startups. So we have, this startup kind of actually has become a buzzword, the past few years, we can say. And there is lot of interest in all of us in this startup concept. And even recently also on the TV channel, the Indian TV channel brought out this very interesting show, that is the Shark Tank India. Already Shark Tank was a popular show internationally, and I used to watch it, the international show also, and that also was pretty interesting. And now with Shark Tank India, the more interest in this startup concept and getting the funding and how to do the pitching and how to attract the investors, so all this is becoming pretty exciting. you know so let me share my screen. So is it visible?
Yes, Madam.
Okay. So the talk that I will be giving today is enabling a startup through creative problem solving, innovation, and research. As I said, like there are many questions in our mind related to startup, but startup, I would say, is a little far fetched. Before that, there are some precursors or prequels to that, I would say, and those are like the creative problem solving, innovation, and research. Like how do we actually go to the step of startup is maybe when we are able to go through these steps. So my our earlier speaker in the morning, Mr. Vijay Shivpuje, has laid down the foundation for me. So things are going to be pretty easy for me to explain now. And also, I could see that there were a lot of questions that were generated regarding this startup concept also, and into what areas we would go and how we would actually reach there. So those are the things that maybe I will like to touch upon. So currently we know that uh, we are experiencing something called as a new normal. This itself, the way in which we are living our life today has changed, right? For the past more than a year and a half, almost it would be 2 years now, right? That we are experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic, and still we are in the pandemic state itself, and it has not gone to the endemic. That is what we are all looking forward to. So, the way in which we are living our lives today has certainly changed. And what are the things that we are talking about today is work from home. We are in the field of academics, so we are talking about online classes, conducting online exams, attending a lot many webinars. Being in the pharma field, of course, we are anxious enough to know what are the drugs that will be used for treating the SARS COVID-19. And till date, at least there is a lot of controversy going on as to which drug really would be useful, sure shot therapy for treating the SARS COVID-19. Today itself, I read in the newspaper that ivermectin, which was being prescribed because of overprescription also, now they're saying it's no good. That is another thing, that overprescription of antibiotics, all this amoxicillin, doxycycline, which was being done, it is already showing the effects, what bad effects it has done actually. We were also talking about drug repurposing, because in such a short period of time to develop a new drug and to pass through all these regulatory hurdles and for the drug to come to market was really difficult. So people were looking at repurposing of the existing drugs, and to a certain extent some things were tried, but then now eventually it is being thought that they were no good. So there are a lot many things, and of course we are in the phase of getting vaccinated. All the population on the earth or the globe, they say that it has to be vaccinated, only then this pandemic can end. So these are the things that we are essentially talking about. And this COVID-19, I would say, in fact, has spurred a lot many innovations, lot many startups also. And that is what we will eventually try to look at. But since we are talking about innovation, I would like to give one beautiful example of innovation. And this is, I would say, a pedagogical innovation, uh, that is innovation in the field of teaching, learning, or in the field
Fail
of
to detect
education.
your speaker. Make sure your speaker
And
is proper
this
वो
is
connected
when
है
the Global
पीछे ही है
Teacher Prize of 2020 was being conferred upon Sri Ranjit Singh Disle, who is a government school teacher from Paritewadi in Maharashtra, and he made a history essentially by winning the $1 million Global Teacher Prize for his efforts to promote the girls' education and for education through the QR coded books, that is the quick response coded books. It is really incredible work that was done by him, and it is said that if you read his story, that a very simple person in 2009, when he was given the job of Jilla Parishad school teacher, He went there at Paritewadi, and the school was in a highly dilapidated condition near a cattle shed, it is said. And he then took the task of turning the things around and brought several changes. And most important thing that he did was that, encouraging girls for education, because in the rural areas we know how difficult it is, and also making the textbooks available to the students in the local language or the mother tongue. And one more thing is, he embedded a unique quick response code to give access to the audio content of the books, textbooks, that is whether it is a poem or the chapter or a short story or whatever it may be. So in fact, he is the first person in Maharashtra to introduce the QR code, and he submitted the proposal in 2017 to the state government of Maharashtra, which introduced the QR coded textbook for all grades. And further, in 2018, he was awarded the National Innovation Award. In the HRD ministry, in fact, announced that all the NCRT textbooks would have the embedded QR codes. And then in 2018, he was also awarded the National Innovation Award. So this is a very good example, a very inspiring example for all of us, that how we can really identify the challenges or problems, and that is what essentially is the process that I'm going to focus on, as to how we will go towards innovation. So to understand the root cause of why people are so much talking about creativity and innovation, research, why all this is required. So this is because that globally we understand that today mankind is facing with lot of challenges, right? And the United Nations has identified these global human challenges, or the global challenges for the mankind that are there, and it has brought forth its 17 goals which are required to transform our world. So there are several which have been identified. The most important of those are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being. So healthcare, we know that now it has become so important. Quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitization. So all these are, the prime requisites. Of course, affordable and clean energy is also very important. Environment, sustainable cities and communities, and that is why so many smart city proposals are coming up in different cities of India. So these are some of the challenges which have been identified by the United Nations, and this is essentially the trigger point as to why we are looking for so much of creative problem solving or innovation and research, because all these are highly complex problems, I would say, right? And sometimes, I'm surprised that that someone comes up with a very simple idea for the problem, and then they say that, wow, I've got some some innovation or something like that. But those have to be sustainable also. The solutions have to be sustainable. That is very, very important. It shouldn't be like a short term kind of a thing. So this is essentially just to make the ground for you to understand that there are problems which are existing around us, and we need to really identify them so that we are on the right track. So the achievement of these sustainable goals of development and an attempt to meet these grand challenges requires these three aspects, that is creative problem solving, innovation and research. It is only through these three that we are going to be able to meet these challenges or come out with good solutions or products to meet these challenges. So reinvent is what is the approach today. That is, RE stands for research, INV for innovation, and ENT for entrepreneurship. So innovation, you can say, is the midway. The precursor to innovation is research, and what follows innovation is the startup or then the entrepreneurship, right? So therefore, there is a lot being focused upon with an intent to bring about innovative products or processes, or a thought process also, I would say, that is required today. So what are these three things? Creativity, invention, and innovation. So creativity, it is said that it is thinking of novel ideas. We will ponder upon each of these separately also. So creativity is thinking of novel ideas. Here the idea is novel and useful and has a value for individual or the society. Creativity may not lead to innovation. What is invention? Invention is creation of novel services, products, or production techniques. And invention process is always strongly supported by a very good R&D. What is innovation? Innovation essentially involves implementation of innovative ideas, which is generated through creative thinking. It puts ideas into action or turn ideas into market offerings. So what it means is that innovation involves commercialization of invention. So if we have to put it as an equation, it is given as innovation is a product of invention and commercialization. Okay, so that is what you have to understand very clearly. And Shivpuri also mentioned this in his talk, that innovation essentially involves commercial aspect. So all innovations involve creativity essentially. Now, what is creative problem solving? So there has been an increasing emphasis on developing creative problem skills among the learners of the 21st century. Now, what are those reasons for this? The first is the internationalization of higher education. We know that we are facing heavy competition now in the field of education, and there are many foreign universities also getting their way through in the India, right? So lot of competition from foreign universities we are going to face. So there is increasing competition at all levels. There are rapid technological developments that are taking place, right? There was scenario of industry, how the technology development took place, 2.0, 3.0, and now we are in a phase of 4.0, right? So the technology is developing at a very fast pace, and there are several challenges that are faced by the mankind globally. Those 17 challenges that are given by the United Nations. So this is essentially what has spurred the interest in the field of creative problem solving. The World Economic Forum has also highlighted that the top skill that is needed for the 21st century workforce to succeed is essentially the creativity. It is only through creativity that the today's generation is going to find some good success. Now, if we understand the different aspects of teaching learning, we know that as per the revised Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 levels of cognitive domains which need to be fulfilled, starting from remember, then to understand, then apply, then analyze. The fifth one is evaluate, that is judging the value of the ideas or the content. And finally, the sixth domain is to create, that is combining the parts to make a new whole. Creativity is the highest cognitive domain, and to achieve that is a Herculean task, I would say. It is not so easy. We know that what challenges, because you all are also in the field of academics, you know that what are the challenges we are facing in the teaching learning process. So the teaching learning process will, when would you say that it is a success? When you are able to imbibe all these six levels of cognitive domains in the learner. Only when the learner reaches this level that he is able to create, he is able to undertake or apply creative problem solving, only then we would say that yes, the teaching learning has become successful. Now, what is the need for the creative problem solving? We understand that the existing system of education, it has been under criticism that it is not able to develop the higher level abilities, that is the ability to analyze, the ability to evaluate and create, or in other words, the ability to solve problems. These are something that we find that the learners today are deficient in. Whatever the practical work and project work also we are giving, they do not provide any environment for free exploration and experimentation and solving the real life problems. We are keeping them confined to the syllabus that is prescribed, and we have to also work in that framework within those boundaries. So we are not really exposing ourselves to the real life problems to that extent when we are in that phase of teaching learning. Also, what we can see is that the acceptability of the graduates in the real world of work is very low. This also is very, very challenging because we know that so many companies coming for placement, but how many candidates appearing for the interviews and how many finally get selected? We know that there is a wide gap in that, right? So this is again a big challenge, that how to make the learners or the graduates ready for the real world of work. So what is creative problem solving? Creative problem solving, it involves the three components, that is creative, then the problem and the solving aspect. So what is creative? Creative, as I said earlier, it refers to anything that is new or novel. So new can be either a product, it could be a process, or it could also be just a state of being. So when you say a new product, the product is novel, it is useful, it is relevant, it is economical, elegant, or valuable, and it should accomplish recognizable goals, and it should significantly change one's view of the world. So just being new or novel is not sufficient. Something is that it has to be useful and valuable. Creativity can be referred to as a process also. So it is a process of generating new products by transformation of the existing ones, or a process of sensing gaps or missing elements, forming ideas or hypotheses concerning them, testing these hypotheses and communicating the results, possibly modifying and retesting the hypothesis. So the process itself can be created. Instead of doing it in a rudimentary way, you can adopt a different way of doing the things. It can be a state of being wherein creativity is a function of knowledge, imagination, and evaluation. reflecting an attitude towards the beneficial and positive use. This is very, very important. Now, what is a problem? The second component of CPS. A problem is something, as is being said, that we experience problem at all aspects of life. It may be economical, political, social, or technological. Can exist. Problems are there everywhere today. So that is not a problem at all, Then it can exist at different levels. For you as an individual, we can face some problem. As a group, we may have some problem. In an organization, organizational related problems can be there, or society relevant problems can be there, right? So it can exist at different levels. It can be of different types, can be a structured problem, a semi-structured, or ill-structured, or in other words, we can just say it is a very simple problem or a complex problem, right? Now, problem can be viewed as a need or a challenge or an opportunity, right? When there is a need, when you consider that there is a problem, is like there is a need where the actual level, for example, it can be looked upon as, if you give an example of an academic institute, one of the important criteria for us is the placements, right? So if you consider that uh, the placement, whatever desirable, you consider that it has to be at least 30% of our students should get placed, but the actual is only 10%. Over the years, what you have, the statistics is that only 10% of your students are getting placed. So here you can see that there is a gap, or there is a need of 20% more placements that need to be done. Okay, so this therefore becomes a need, that this is a problem that we are having. We are deficient in the placement. There is a need to improve by certain percentage the placements of our college. It can be also as a challenge also. If we are considering now with respect to funding, research funding, it's a big challenge. If we consider that existing, we are getting around on an average only 10 lakh of funding, which we know that for research to come out with very good research, 10 lakh funding may not be really sufficient. And what you want is at least a 1 crore of funding, to get some very good sophisticated equipment or whatever it may be. So therefore it is very challenge. It is a challenge there. It is challenging now that you want to improve your research funding from 10 lakh to 1 crore. So that is where the problem is lying. And of course, it is always looked upon as opportunity. Now, what is solving? Solving essentially refers to finding a solution to the problem or bridging the gap that exists between the desired and the actual state. So creative problem solving is finding creative solutions to the problems. So creative problem solving is a way of solving problems or identifying the opportunities when conventional thinking has failed. So it encourages you to find a fresh perspective and come up with innovative solutions so that you can formulate a plan to overcome the obstacles and reach your goals. So CPS is a proven method for approaching a problem in an imaginative and innovative way. It is defined as problem solving technique that addresses a challenge or the problem in a creative manner. Now, therefore, there are two things which are normally mistaken. One is creative thinking and other is critical thinking. So what is creative thinking? Creative thinking is where you are going diversified in your ideas or in your thought process. You are thinking out of the box. Whereas critical thinking is more of a logical thinking. And there is where you you become convergent in your thinking, right? So this is a basic difference. That is, when you are divergent, you are more novel and imaginative. Whereas in your when you are convergent or when you think critically, it is through the existing knowledge or logic that you are trying to apply. And therefore you are trying to find known solution for a problem. Actually, you are trying to seek a known solution for a problem based on whatever literature or whatever knowledge you have. So that is what it becomes as a critical thinking. Whereas creative thinking is essentially out of the box thinking. So it is essentially thinking out of the box, and there could be various ways of thinking. That is, there a standard procedure to solve the problem? Have I solved a similar problem earlier? Or has anybody else solved a similar problem? Is there an expert who can solve the problem? So all these are the questions that we may ask when you are going out of the box. Now, main thing is that whatever we may say, there are certain blocks to creativity. It doesn't come so easily. Now, what are those blocks? The first and the foremost block is the fear of failure. The fear of failure essentially makes us avoid to take any risk and indulge in any new activity, task, or thinking, because that fear of failure, we are not comfortable with the failure, and therefore that is why we say no, let it be. I won't go venture into that area at all. Why go into startup or all those things? What will happen if I fail in that? The second block could be allergy to ambiguity. Ambiguity, we understand it is uncertainty, right? So we are not comfortable in uncertain situation. We need a lot of planning and organization. Even for a simple tour or a picnic or a vacation that we are going, we always want that we should do all the booking, the reservations earlier, because we don't want to be in that exploring mode. We don't want that uncertainty at all, right? So that allergy to ambiguity is another block. Then there is a sensitivity issue. This touchiness or sensitivity is again a very serious block, which is related to collaboration, in collaborating the activities. A person who is very touchy about criticism or rejection, he will normally not approach others for any help or guidance, and also sometimes that person tends to look others with suspicion whenever they are approaching for any help or guidance. So this is another block that is there. Then there is conformity. That is conformity to the social norms. That is fear of any social disapproval. What will the society say, if you are doing something? That is the fear of social norms, and that big fear is there in our mind always. Another block is the resource myopia. That of course is there, that I am having such low resources and how could I do, solve this problem. So normally for ideation, however, we forget that for ideation, there is no resource that is required, right? It is your brain that is your resource, correct? So therefore, we should never think about resources first, We should first be able to recognize our own strengths and identify the resources which are there with us. That is very, very important. Then there are starved sensitivities, because this is as we grow with age. This comes with age. Like as we grow older, our imaginative power or our ability to fantasize upon something, it gets reduced because of the environmental pressures, whatever it may be there. We try to be more rational in our thinking, whatever we are doing. So therefore we sometimes, that is the reason we don't indulge in much creative thinking. And the last block is the rigidity. Rigidity, it occurs because of stereotyping, and functional fixedness. Like this is the way I do things and I'll keep doing it that way. So we are quite rigid always in our approach. So these are the certain things that we should, try to avoid if we have to, uncoil our creative thinking abilities. So quickly to understand this process of, there is a very scientific way that is given, that how do we, get into this process of creative problem solving. So first is, of course, the problem identification and definition. So which involves that first we have to identify the apparent problem, then seek and analyze the causes, and then define what the real problem is. So this is very, very important, because unless and until we are able to identify, define the problem, we cannot come out with the good solution. Then the decision making, or the creating and selecting the options. Once you know what the problem is, we should have generation of creative ideas. Now how that can take place? If you are in a group, then the best way is through brainstorming. So when we are giving the projects also to students, we should make them sit together and think about the ideas and how we can solve that problem. So brainstorming could be a simple way of uh, allowing the creative thinking to go on. Then there are some techniques like Scamper. Scamper is a mnemonic. S stands for substitute, combine, add, modify, rearrange, eliminate. So these are the ways we can, allow for the creative thinking to go on. And then we have to select the best idea or the option. And the last part is finally the planning and organization. So here is when you prepare an action plan and then go about with the implementation of that plan. So what are the benefits of creative problem solving? Of course, we can achieve a competitive edge over others. It will help to reduce the stress and uncertainty. It will also, for an organization, identify and recognize the employees' strength. It will explore new possibilities. It will support R&D and new product development. It will generate and improve interaction, and it will uncover the unexplored areas. So basically, creative problem solving has to be an activity of a group and not as a single person. That we have to know. We should be inclusive enough, that inclusiveness has to be there in all the aspects. Nothing can be done by a simple person, because as I said, the problems that we are facing today are highly complex problems, and as an individual, definitely we will not be able to handle those complexities. So for teachers or team leaders, we have to develop the competence to visualize the indigenous needs creatively, find appropriate solutions which are user friendly and suitable for indigenous use. That is very important. And acquire the skills of proper need analysis, meaningful literature review, appropriate problem framework, and the study design. And most important, develop the culture of creative innovation. And this can be achieved only by building effective teams. So that was the first aspect, that is of creative problem solving. The second aspect is of innovation. Now, earlier I have mentioned that the difference between the invention and innovation. So invention is the first occurrence of the idea for the new product or the process, whereas innovation, it involves implementation of creative idea or invention for creating value or commercialization of the idea to meet customer needs and expectations. So commercialization is something which is imbibed in innovation. If we are not able to take that invention to the market, then we cannot call it as an innovation, right? So innovation also represents a new application of an old concept or a new way of doing the things. So invention, whereas, is creation of new product or device. So these examples will help you understand the difference between the innovation and invention. So we know that in case of the light bulb, the first invention, it was by Thomas Edison way back in around 1879. And later on, there were many versions which have come up: the tube light, CFL, LED, automobile lights, flash bulb, etc. The stone wheel was the first invention, and followed by the cart wheel, the carriages, automobile, and motorcycle tires. In the field of communication, it was Alexander Bell in 1877 around. He invented the telephone. And now what we are having, in fact, these landline telephones have become obsolete, right? After telephones, then the handset free came, then the pagers, cell phones, and now the smartphones. So here is one simple task, that there are certain list that is given, and we have to identify whether the particular aspect is a creative idea, or it is an invention or an innovation. So the mechanized car parking, then the second is robotics, third is the driverless car, then the polio vaccine, artificial intelligence, rooftop gardens, and these high-rise buildings. Nowadays, we see a lot of these rooftop gardens. Then electricity, telegram, iPhones, antibiotics, personal computers, sofa cum bed. So you have to identify. Maybe you can put in the chat box what, according to you, this is, whether it's just a creative idea, whether it is an invention, or whether it is an innovation. Please put in the chat box so that I can see what you are sharing. Okay, so mechanized car parking is innovation, robotics is creativity. Again, mechanized car parking is an innovation. Polio vaccine is an invention. Yes. Can we have some more? Driverless car is innovative. iPhones is an invention. Okay. Electricity is invention. Yes. Okay, so just let us look at what is what now. So mechanized car parking is essentially a creative idea, actually. Robotics is innovation. Driverless car is an innovation. Polio vaccine, electricity, telegram, and antibiotics. These four are the inventions. The roof garden and sofa cum bed, it's a creative idea, actually. Need of the hour, space crunch. So therefore, all these three, the mechanized car parking, roof gardens, and sofa cum bed, these are all creative ideas. whereas rest all are the innovations. So as I said earlier that this COVID-19 pandemic essentially has spurred in a lot of innovations or lot of creative thought process in many people. And it is said that this COVID-19 pandemic, it will go down the history not only as a health or a economic crisis, but certainly it will be remembered for because of the change it has brought in the wake of this COVID-19. It is said to be a driver for a lot of digitization and innovation. And that is what we all have experienced. And here you can see that there are so many innovations that we can see post pandemic. The one is maybe in this mask, wherein it was given a coating of a antiviral agent. Then robots were introduced for remote patient monitoring because there was a lot of safety issue even for the doctors or the healthcare professionals going near the patient. So the robots for patient care were developed. DRDO came out with this touchless sanitizer dispenser. Then in the mobile apps, there were a lot of healthcare apps that were developed. One which was brought by the government of India was the Arogya Setu app. Even in the rickshaws and all, there was concern how to sit in the rickshaw, but of course you cannot avoid it and how long you are going to avoid. So there were screen separators that we can see that were introduced. So that is also an innovation. And even in the testing also, that rapid antigen test kit was introduced by a biotech company which is located in Pune itself, and this Covishield, in fact, in this third wave, this rapid antigen test kit has become very popular, and now recently that same company, it has come out with another innovation for the testing, where they have launched a new product, the Covishield, what they call, and said that it is 4 times faster than the RT-PCR while maintaining the same, a very small box, which can be easily transported from any place, and it can process 16 samples in 40 minutes from the swab to the report. So there is no need of any nasal or throat swab. They say even the saliva can work. So this is something which is really maybe going to revolutionize. So what I was trying to get to is that whenever there is a problem, whenever there are challenges, certainly it will need to lot of innovations also. So today, if you see the top 10 healthcare industry trends that are there, are all tech based, So artificial intelligence, Internet of Medical Things, IOMT, they say. Then telemedicine, again because of COVID-19, there were lot many telemedicine apps, this Practo, then even that MFine, whatever has come, there are others also. Then big data analytics, immersive technology, mobile health, or the wearable devices, 3D printing, blockchain, cloud computing, genomics. All these are considered to be the top 10 healthcare related trends which we are looking forward in the future. And most of the startups will be coming in these areas, So in fact, you can see that these are all technology based, and that is what I'm trying to get you toward, that whenever you say innovation, as I said, it has to imbibe commercialization. And whenever we say commercialization, it has to be technology based. Even in Shark Tank India, you must, if you have followed it carefully, that their approach was all on technology rather than on the product, So product, they say that, okay, we can do the branding, we can do the technology and make it a massive success, right? As a business model, it can become a business model only when it is tech driven. And therefore we have to now understand, identify what are our shortcomings or what are our lacunae, and how we can improve our skill set in these areas, so that we can, with our pharmacy knowledge and with this skill set, we can definitely come out with more innovations. So what are the types of innovations? It is said that the innovation can be incremental, wherein small changes are made in the existing products or processes, or it can be a radical innovation, which is called as a disruptive or a drastic change that has the potential to upset the existing business model. So incremental is, we had the landline phone, right? And then for that landline phone, there was an innovation brought in, wherein the handset free, that is, that handset, instead of putting it on the landline, you can have it mobile, but still the phone is landline. That could be an incremental innovation. But a radical innovation was when the mobile phone came in. That was really disruptive. And then later on, the smartphone, when it came, it really, this landline phones or whatever it may be, they have become like obsolete now. So that is how it has a potential to upset the existing business model. So in our field of pharma, the example is that this invention was there of a single punch machine, and we know that with this, the speed obviously going to be less for production of many tablets. So the innovation was made, and a rotary tablet machine was brought in, wherein with that speed, lot many tablets per hour could be compressed. But now there is a disruptive innovation, and now what we are talking about is the 3D printing. We know that with the 3D printing, not only in the field of prosthetics, but even in the formulation or dosage form manufacturing, also this 3D printing can be useful. And around 2017, sometime the first 3D printed drug was approved by the US FDA. Right, so this is where the technology is now going towards, and this can be really a disruptive technology, right, in our field, because if we are able to manufacture the tablets, because now we are talking about personalized medicines, right? And for personalized medicine, 3D printing is the excellent way of giving the medicine to the patient. So there are the classical models of innovation. One is the science push model, wherein the innovation proceeds linearly. That is, from a scientific discovery, you have the invention, which goes to the product phase, then to the manufacturing, and then the marketing. So here, like, you already have the product, and then you try to see if there is a market for it, right? So this can be a very rudimentary way of doing the things. But now what I'm taking you towards is like to understand the demand pull model. That is where the innovation originates with the unmet customer need. That is, you identify the problem that is there first, and then you go for the invention and the innovation, and then of course it will have the business potential. So looking for the suggestions or what the customer says, yesterday's talk also, that Avni, Sujata Pawar, what she was talking about, that the customer feedback is always very important to understand what the problems are, so that is the starting point actually, how you can go for the innovation. Now coming to the last component, and that is the research. And there are a lot of questions in our mind, obviously, with respect to the research, what research actually means. For some, it could be just doing some scientific work. Some it could be just getting some results, or some it could be just getting a good publication or a good patent. But what research means to us today, in today's point of view, is what is important. In our country, if we see that compared to the countries like US or China or Israel also, the GDP that we are putting in research is very, very minimal. So not much is being done, but that is going to change now with the new education policy. Our global innovation index China is at 14 number, whereas India is at 52 number, the ranking. What it is expected is that at least we should be in somewhere near in top 20, or 25. That is what the aim of India, because the economy of any country, it can get uplifted only through innovations. That is being understood now, that if we have to, reach somewhere near US or China or whatever, we have to be, very updated in terms of our research output and the innovations that we are bringing in. So as an academic in the field of academics, positioning of academic research is very, very important, because this Alvin Toffler, he said that we are now living in a knowledge-based economy where knowledge is the source of highest quality power. So we as academicians or teachers, what is the topmost domain that we should be looking for is not just knowledge transfer that normally we are doing in the classroom teaching, but the knowledge generation is what is very, very important and expected from a higher education teacher. So this is the topmost pinnacle, that is of knowledge generation, that we should aim for always, and that can be only through research. So teacher today, we know that has to do multiple jobs. Knowledge transfer is of course the main thing. He has to do some work, administrative work also. He has to do the evaluation work also, the assessment and exams and all that. But most important is that teacher today is looked upon as not just a person who is involved in knowledge transfer, but the ultimate aim of the goal of the teacher is to be as a creator of knowledge. So teacher and research, if you see the positive attributes and the negative attributes, is the positive attributes is that if you are involved in research, you are updated with whatever current developments are, and you can inspire and stimulate the research interest in the students also. But the negative attributes could be that you may divert your attention from the teaching duties, which some teachers do, and then focus on a very narrow area of research. So you lose upon the broad aspect and you just go on in one pinpointed area, you just focus yourself upon. So what I want to say is that whatever this positive or negative may be, we have to balance it out, somewhere. And we cannot say that we will do no research, or we cannot just say that we will do only research. Both is not expected. We have to balance out both these things. So what are the conventional steps in the research? I won't go in details of this, that selecting and defining the research problem, for which there are different steps that are there, that is identify the problem, identify the variables, formulate the hypothesis, then evaluate the problem for the research ability, then describing the research methodology, wherein we select the method of research, select the sample, or select or develop some measuring tools, or describe the procedure for data collection if it's a survey, or selection of some statistical techniques, and then we carry out the experiments or collect the data, and finally analyzing and interpreting and reporting the data, right? Output of this finally is like, we are happy with a very good publication in a very good impact factor journal, or we are able to get a patent. This is what the current scenario is. But now what it is proposed, that we have to go beyond this thing, right? So the purpose of research is essentially to facilitate or generate the new knowledge. It should facilitate problem solving. It should promote the inquisitiveness, and finally it should improve the quality of life. So there has to be some purpose for any research that we are doing. Now, there is a holistic approach of research, what it is said that, and there are these 4 quadrants which are identified. That is the knowledge, creation, products, and transfer, and which are related to research. First of all, education, then research, then innovation, and the business. And all these 4 areas are being handled by different people, right? In the field of education and knowledge, it is the teacher. As a research, there may be a scientist who is involved. In the field of going from research to innovation, that is the creativity. Innovation, mostly the technologists or the engineers are involved, and from taking that innovation to the for the commercial aspect or making a business potential out of it, that is where an entrepreneur may be involved. So this is essentially the approach, but now it is expected that a teacher should be able to do the role of all this. That is where, when we are thinking about a startup, that a teacher should not just be involved in knowledge transfer, he should be involved in creation of knowledge, he should be able to develop a product, and he should be able to market it also, make it as a viable business potential. So earlier it was said that knowledge and wealth, they cannot coexist, right? Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, and Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, they cannot coexist. But now it is no longer said that. Okay, so the innovation ecosystem is something what we have to understand now, and which gives us a new dimension of research. So right from the idea stage to taking it to the market stage. So each one is a big lap that we have to, or a leap that has to be taken from idea to the proof of concept, wherein the scientist or the researcher is involved, and in a research lab, he will take it from the idea to the proof of concept. From proof of concept to the prototype is where the innovator is involved, and this is where the product development center may come into picture. From the prototype to the product is the entrepreneur who is involved, and that is where the startup incubator will come into picture. And from this product to the market now is where the investors will be involved, and that is through the industry park, that, or the business park, that the product will finally go to the market. So you can see that this is what is expected now, not a publication or a patent. You should be able to take your idea, your product to the market through the startup. And that is why the government of India and AICTE putting so much of emphasis on all these aspects. So for this, and how it is going to be triggered, only through multi and interdisciplinary research. As I am saying again and again, the problems we are facing are highly complex in nature, and therefore we as an individual, to go through all this, we have to be as a good scientist, but we have to be as a good technocrat, as an entrepreneur, and finally then we have to understand the finance or the economic aspect of that also, and we have to take it to the commercial level. So for this is why the multi and interdisciplinary research is required. And the research and innovation, there are several aspects. How we are going to achieve is set up startup incubation centers, technology development centers or centers in frontier research area, establish industry academy linkages, and interdisciplinary research. So the question is how we are going to achieve all this, and that is why the NEP, the new education policy which has come up, which focuses on creativity and critical thinking, collaborative and multidisciplinary research, and autonomy and empowerment, that is going to nurture the innovation and entrepreneurship. So I will not go in the details of this. The focus of NEP 2020 towards research is essentially to establish the universities as the centers of knowledge creation and innovation. So in the NEP 2020, there is a special machinery created in the name of what is called as a National Research Foundation, NRF, to fund the universities and colleges, which is going to promote high quality multi and interdisciplinary research. So the NRF is essentially going to bridge the gap between education and research, and it is going to foster creativity, innovation, and critical thinking. Most important is their focus on the mother tongue. So I will also not go in the details. They have put in a lot of aspects here to promote the research. So here, finally, the role of the faculty is what we have to identify, that how from academia we are going to go to the society, from coming from society to academia and back to the society, because we have to identify the problems that are here in the society, right? And once those problems are identified, how through the correct research we are going to give the solutions to it and make it innovative and bring those products to the back to the society. So going to the society to identify the problems and giving back to the society the right solutions or the right products. So the focus of NEP 2020 is essentially setting up MERU, that is the Multidisciplinary Education and Research Institutes, where there is going to be the focus on research and innovation. And there are a lot of funds going to be available to set up the startup incubation centers, set up centers in frontier research areas, technology development centers, and industry, establishing industry academia linkages is again very, very important. So if you look at the Indian Institute of Technology, the IITs we know are the premier educational institutes in our country. And the vision of IIT Bombay is to achieve recognition for innovation, entrepreneurship, and research excellence through industry academia collaboration. So you can see that how they have imbibed it in their vision itself, how innovation, entrepreneurship, and research are the key words of their vision statement. So according to me, these are the 5 C's for research that we should be adopting. And the first, of course, is creativity, then the critical thinking, good communication skill, good collaborations, and good convincing power, because ultimately good funding is required and we should be able to convince the funding agencies that, or rather pitching what we have seen in startup, that how the product or whatever research we are into, how it is going to be beneficial to the that convincing power has to be there. So with this, I end my talk, and this is what the famous scientist said, that if we knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research. So always go into the unexplored zone so that we can come out with more critical, creative thinking abilities and more innovative products. So thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge my institute, Pune College of Pharmacy, and all my research scholars, who have put in a lot of hard work, because of which, we are able to get a good research output. But we are still struggling, if I would say, in terms of startup and all those things. It's a learning process for us also. And I would like to acknowledge NITTR and AICTE also. So thank you very much. Thank you for your kind listening. And again, one of the COVID-19 thing is the Indian Namaste, which has become very, very popular all across the world. So thank you very much, all of
Thank you, madam, for this nice and informative talk. The topic is open for the discussion. If the participant have the questions, they can ask or they can put in the chat box.
So it is close to lunch time, I think, and everybody is hungry now.
Ma'am,
Yes,
hello.
Abhijit.
Am I audible? Ma'am,
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
yeah, I would like to ask one question. Because you have touched the NAP and various aspects and importance of startup, ecosystem, and culture development. So, how to convince management regarding funding or say to promote the innovation in a campus? That is a little offbeat, but still I want to ask this question because
Right.
what is the mechanism?
So
That-
the best way to convince is that first try to demonstrate that yes, we can do these things. So as I said that you can identify the problems which are organizational level problems, and maybe with the resources that you have, try to give some good creative solutions, and that will give the confidence to the management, that yes, we are able to achieve these things, and our manpower, our resources, our faculty have those capabilities, that we can support them in their further ideas. So initially, yes, breaking the ice is always very difficult, but that is why I said that normally no one touches upon the fifth C, that is the convincing power. So for that convincing power, first that credibility we have to establish, that groundwork, that effort has to be from our side, you know that is why that we have to become very observant and alert as to what problems that are existing at each and every level, at society level, at organization level, at individual level, whatever that small problem it may be. But if in a very creative or unique way we are able to give some very small simple solutions, it is definitely going to be appreciated.
Thank you, ma'am, for your views.
Thank you. So I can see one question that Dr. Nandevi is asking, that what perspectives we need to take into consideration for innovation. So first of all, that market need, that has to be identified, because as is said that innovation imbibes commercialization, right? So the market need has to be there. Even that yesterday's talk of Avni, what we have listened to, that identifying that market need is the most important thing, that it has to be having a business potential, it has to be a viable solution. When you say a viable solution, means there is, you have to identify that market need. Only then we can consider to go ahead in that direction or support that innovation to make it commercial through the incubation center. And that is why at institutional levels all these things have to be facilitated. The management has to take in initiatives to have this incubation centers, skill development centers, all these have to be there. Only then this process can go ahead. I hope I'm able to answer you, Nandini.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, thank you.
Is there any question? Okay. Uh, Thank you, madam, for this nice talk. I, I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Pokharkar, madam, for her uh, this informative talk. I'm immensely grateful to her for uh, delivering these highly knowledgeable and wonderful lectures and motivating our uh, participants. While the creativity is the ability to produce new and unique ideas, followed by the innovation and implementation of it. The creativity, that is the introduction of a new idea with solutions, the process, and the products. Man's technical expertise uh, could, with her creativity, innovations, and research focuses, to start up one's hand in hand research and implementation of it for producing the entrepreneurship. She has highlighted about the 17 goals uh, to transport our world, then the creative problem solving, followed by the innovations, and she told about that innovation is the midway, and finally the research. And also she highlighted about the innovation is the product of creativity and the innovations. Also, she emphasizes on this academic learning, in that one, the cognitive domains and the Bloom's taxonomy and the implementation of in the creativity. The creative problem solving is prone method for the approaching a problem in a imaginative way and a innovative way. She also highlighted about the NEPs and the implementations of it. So, on behalf of the management and the organizers of these STP, I very thankful to the man for delivering such nice and informative talks. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amol, and thank you very much, Dr. Vibida, for giving me this opportunity
Thank you,
to
ma'am.
deliver the talk, and my best wishes further for this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We will end up the morning session, and then we will, after lunch, we will be joining around at 2 o'clock for the afternoon session, where we are having two different lectures, and they are quite interesting, related to startups. So we will be back for the session in the afternoon. Till then, have your lunch, and we can again join back using the same link. Thank you, all of you.